A warm welcome to Diski Talk with Luyolo. If you're tuning in for the very first time, I do ask that you please subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you've been a part of this journey, I hope you thoroughly enjoy this episode. So, on today's episode, I discuss all things DSTV Premiership action as Kaizer Chiefs took on Sekhukhune United. So, this is a post-match analysis of that encounter, which played to a 2-0 win for Kaizer Chiefs at the FNB Stadium. So, coming up into this encounter then, Kaizer Chiefs did not play the last two games because of the COVID cases. Sekhukhune United coming up into this game. This is a game then that they were always looking to win and keep up the momentum with regards to their form in recent weeks. However, when we have a look at it then, Kaizer Chiefs then on the bench, they didn't have Stuart Baxter. So, Coach Arthur Zwane took charge of this encounter. So Kaizer Chiefs then did line up in a 3-4-3 system. In goals, they did start with Daniel Akpe, a back three of Tabani Dube as the left-sided centre-back, Cardoso who played as the centre-back in between the two, and then at right centre-back, they started with Ungezan. So when we have a look at these three then, from a defensive perspective, I think that they were very solid, as much as they weren't really tested throughout the game, because I think on the day, Sekhukhune were poor, and they didn't create enough chances. However, when they did create those chances, and when they did try to penetrate Kaizer Chiefs within the final third, I think these three were solid on the day. And especially then when you have a look at Ungezane, I was very happy with his performance as he's made the return after a long injury layoff. Very, very impressed then with his performance and how he performed on the day. Moving on then within the heart of midfield, they did start with Blom and Bernard Parker. So when you have a look at it then, I think these two were very, very good within the heart of midfield today for Kaizer Chiefs, especially considering how well they controlled the tempo of the game and how well then they were also able then to institute that tactical discipline. Whenever then they lost the ball and they didn't have the ball, Kaizer Chiefs then were always looking to come compact and manage the spaces in between. And when you have a look at this type of game and you have a look at the fact that a lot of fringe players were given a chance, coming up into this encounter then, when a lot of fringe players are given a chance, it's always a game that you have to be very smart and have to be very sound when you approach, because you can't go out and exert all your energy because a lot of the fringe players aren't match fit. So what Kaizer Chiefs did very well on the day, especially the two within the heart of midfield with Blom and Parker, was that they were able then to manage the spaces very well, and they were able then to sit compact and not overly exert themselves. So I think they worked smart as opposed to hard, which is very important then when you don't have that match fitness, which is something the team did very well. Bernard Parker, I think, had a very good performance within the heart of midfield, alongside Blom, who did get the assist for the first goal for Nkosingphile Ngcobo. And when you have a look at it then from a box-to-box perspective, he did... in the second half, he did pop up in the box and had a shot at goal where he almost scored. You know, if he keeps that on target and he makes Nsabata work, then I think that goes for a corner or Nsabata parries it back into play. So within the heart of midfield then, very impressed with these two with regards to how well they controlled the game, how well they rotated the ball, and how well they played as well. And then when you have a look at it at left wing back, they did start with Untiantia, who I think had a good performance in the left wing back position. I'll just say that at times decision making was a bit of an issue, you know. However, I will give him the benefit of the doubt because, you know, he is a player then who isn't as match fit. But with regards to how he managed himself and how far he managed to get with regards to the game, I think he had a good performance. And then at right wing back, very impressed then with Frosler's performance, especially considering how many chances he created within the first half. He does then put in such a beautiful ball in the first half at back post for Cardoso, but then Cardoso doesn't finish, which then should have been 1-0 to Kaizer Chiefs within the starting minutes of the game. Very happy then with Frosler's performance. And then when you have a look at it then, they started with, as a front three, Mashiane, and Nkosingphile Ngcobo, the 2 number 10s, and then Castro up front. So with Mashiane then, I was very disappointed with his performance today. I just feel that he didn't grab the opportunity with both hands, especially considering the fact that he was given a start, he was given an opportunity where he could show what he can do. Also considering then that he had a couple of set pieces to his disposal. This is a player then who has good technical ability, so I was disappointed then that he couldn't make use of that. And then when you have a look at Nkosingphile Ngcobo, who I think had a very good performance on the day, who, in my opinion, my man of the match, I think this is a player who played really well for Kaizer Chiefs. And what he did very well then is that he gave Kaizer Chiefs the presence within then vertical zone 3, within the 2 half spaces, and a player then who is able to nurture the ball within those tight spaces. He takes the ball on the back foot. He's always looking to turn and play those 1-2s, and very impressed with his performance then. And when you have a look at the first goal, Blom gets the ball, he pops up within the heart of midfield. He plays a beautiful ball in between the lines, and what Nkosingphile Ngcobo does very well then is that he comes into that position where then he's in that half space. He collects the ball very well in between the lines, and then once he gets it, he then he takes a touch to set himself up. He moves infield a bit, and then he has a shot. And that was a beautiful goal then by Nkosingphile Ngcobo. This is what then Kaizer Chiefs have lacked at times, especially considering the fact that it's been very lopsided. Keegan Dolly would offer that in the right-sided half space. However, they didn't have that within vertical zone 3 and sometimes in the left half space. So that creativity then, which came then from midfield, was absolutely important and vital for Kaizer Chiefs, especially when you consider how then Sekhukhune at times they were open from a central perspective, and defensively I just think on the day they were not disciplined, and tactically they were not sound. So they left too many spaces in between, and when those spaces open up, you then need Nkosingphile Ngcobo, who's able then to manipulate the ball skillfully in those tight pockets of spaces. And then when you have a look at then in the second half, I think second half he had a better performance, as in the first half at times he would he lacked a bit of urgency and he would lose the ball sometimes, which is something I think that he has to improve with his game then, is just to sometimes show a bit more urgency and just then be able to play the ball a bit quicker. Otherwise, I think he had a very good performance. And when you have a look at it then, there was Castro. I think Castro played very well on the day, and his hold-up play for me was quite impressive, especially considering the fact that this is a player then who isn't match fit, but whenever then that ball was played up to him, he was able to hold it up and push the team 10 to 15 yards up the pitch, and then bring in Ngcobo into the game, and then look then to bring those players into the game. A player then who came off the bench and made a very big impact was Sekgota. I think Sekgota had a very good cameo, because when he comes on then he was taking players on. He delivered a couple of good balls into the boxes, but what was most impressive then is how then he looks to press, and when he presses, and then when he does press and he wins that ball, he then plays it back to Nkosingphile Ngcobo. But now what Nkosingphile Ngcobo does very well within this situation then is that he doesn't rush, because then it's very easy for a lot of players to rush in this situation or look to take a shot. But Nkosingphile Ngcobo gets the ball, he takes care of it very well, he turns in the box, he waits for a runner, and then a deep run made by Patucheza Nange, he then finds him. And that finishes off the game for Kaizer Chiefs. Overall, I think Kaizer Chiefs had a good performance on the day, and one would never tell that these were actually fringe players. And also to a certain degree then, I look at Sekhukhune and I think they didn't show up on the day. And with regards then to how Kaizer Chiefs managed the game, I think they managed the game well. I think Arthur Zwane also made very good changes, and how then you look to tweak the side from a tactical perspective, the personnel that he brought on and how they changed the game, and those defensive changes he made as well, just to show up things at the back. So a good performance then for Kaizer Chiefs as they win 2-0 and they pick up 3 points. However, let's have a look at Sekhukhune then. So when we have a look at Sekhukhune, they did line up in a 4-2-3-1. So they started with Nsabata in goals, and then a back 4 at right back. They started with Mobi, and then 2 centre backs. They had Jima and Mutsipe. At left back, they did start with Jumpies. Within the heart of midfield, they had Mart and they had Katsande, and then Rachale played as a 10, and then you had Pachi off the one side, you had Chalapiwa off the other side, and then you had Nxumalo up front. So from a Sekhukhune United perspective, you know, I would say that at times, only Yusuf Mat was the one player then who was a bit influential with regards to his passing range. So he was finding those passes, but overall, Sekhukhune just couldn't grow into the game. Very disappointed then that they didn't take the game to Kaizer Chiefs by virtue of the fact that this is a side then that has been playing, they have been training. But if anything though, it does look like Sekhukhune United were the side on the day that hadn't trained. There was the side on the day then that were playing fringe players, but they were playing a lot of their strong players and they just couldn't grow into the game. They struggled and they couldn't impose themselves. They couldn't create clear-cut chances. They couldn't get Pachi into the game. And even within the first half, Pachi did have a couple of good moments, but he just couldn't add on to that. Chalapio on the other side just wasn't penetrative enough. And a very disappointing game from Sekhukhune because I just feel to a certain degree, they didn't show up on the day and they didn't close Kaizer Chiefs down and they just didn't impose themselves, you know. And at times they didn't put pressure on the ball and they weren't disciplined, especially considering that this is a side then which is tactically disciplined, very pragmatic and very defensive. But on the day, they just didn't apply themselves well. Even the players then that came off the bench just couldn't make an impact for Sekhukhune United. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in to yet another special episode of Diski Talk with Liolo. It is DSTV Premiership action as Kaizer Chiefs win 2-0 at the F&B Stadium. It is DSTV Premiership action. Babi Zebonke. 3 points goes to Kaizer Chiefs and Nkosingphile Ngcobo shines. Signing out.